No idea. No idea. No idea. Good evening, race fans, and welcome to HBR 29 of the finale, the very, very last race weekend of our 29-week-long series. There are many battles to be decided, which will be reported on after this race. So tonight we have 8 laps of Downtown Dolphin, and we believe that will be approximately 17k. The 8 laps themselves will be about 15.8, and we believe the lead-in is probably best part of the whole lap. So I'm joined tonight by my co-commentators. We have Jake Sanderson and Gordon Sloan. And the man on the course will be Ed Finney for the very first time, fresh from his cruise of the Caribbean. Jake, what do you think?
It's that time of the week again, James, where I tell you it's going to be a sprint finish. But this time, I really believe it. I think that this might be full of chaos, carnage, bodies everywhere, all over the place. This is going to be the maddest one we've had yet. Really excited to see what we get at the front. We've got some really talented riders, including people like my man on the course, Michael Considine, Galloping Chris Shelton, Max Szymanski, Kevin Flood, amongst many other favourites that we've had over the last few weeks. So very, very excited to see it, and this is going to be mad.
I'm absolutely certain we are not going to have a clue what's going on after about 5 minutes.
I completely agree. Gordon made a very good point, which is what's going to happen over 8 laps is we're going to get lapped riders, and they're going to cause all sorts of roadblocks potentially for the front group, and they may even be able to jump on and get some draft, and it's going to be like an extra power up. So very excited now, and we get 10 seconds until the kickoff. So James, I'll pass it back over to you.
Thank you. And we are 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's lights out and away we go. And I'm following Ben Knopfling tonight, and he's hammering it out 400 watts already. Gordon, who are you watching?
Watching Ernst Leckies tonight. Again, he's out at 500 watts. He's hanging on with the front group at the moment. Again, like Jake suggests, it might come down to a sprint finish. I do expect a long, good race from Ernst here. Just see how he can cope. At the moment, he's a very consistent C rider, so just see if he can group up with that front lot and hang in there for a bit.
Jake, up front.
As expected, we've got the usual suspects: Max Szymanski, Chris Shelton, Kevin Flood, Toby Zur from Pedal Air, along with I think Gary Miller's up there, Patrick Schaefer, Chris Shelton's teammate at R3R. So yeah, this is going to be difficult for anybody to get away from what I can see at the minute. We've got big numbers on the front, but it's going to be a big peloton, and because of the sort of flat nature of this and the short laps, I think this is going to be very difficult for people to get away. It's going to be more a war of attrition, who can hang on for longest until they get dropped from that peloton. When you've got people like Michael Considine and Chris on the front drilling it, trying to make it hard for people further back, then this could get quite brutal quite quickly. Gordon, how are things looking with you?
Yes, so Ernst has drifted a wee bit away from the front group, and he's got another hard regular, Robert Homer, right on his wheel now. So I suspect those two will do battle for pretty much most of this race, not allowing each other to get away. I did a social ride with them up the Alp just the other night, and they were both racing each other, so I expect them to be going at it back and forth. But at the moment, there's probably a group of about 4 or 5 just hitting the first little climb up the hill. But as you said, I think it'll be very interesting in a few laps' time when other riders start coming by on the second lap. See who they can hang on with, but at the moment it's just spreading out as Robert tries to go up the hill at 5-6 watts a kilos. Whoever he's trying to make an early move away from Ernst could be an interesting move, but only time will tell. There's a couple of riders now ahead of Ernst, so not doing too bad, but Ernst is just alone at the moment, probably waiting for the group behind to catch.
So Ben Knopfling has actually managed to roughly hang on with front group. There does appear to be a bit of a split, which we'll come back to Jake in a moment. But Ben is forming a little group with Daniel Bennett and Maureen Finney. There's also Bruce Bortoff about second and front, Dennis Wade, Greg Williams, all the names we've come to love over the last few weeks. But I think it's time to switch to our man on the course, Ed Finney. How are you feeling?
Winded, for sure. Trying to hang with that front group. Maureen took off. Ben, Daniel Bennett. Well, I'm going to catch him. Oh. Roger out, James.
Good luck, mate. Carry on. Let's just switch up to front because I think there's been a bit of a break.
Yeah, we've seen a split here. So unfortunately, people like Greg Williams got caught on the wrong side of it. Gary Miller did very well there to make that break. So you've got a group of about 8-9 riders at the front, including all our heavyweights, and big numbers here. This is already looking quite brutal. It did look like for a brief second that Chris and Michael might be able to get away together. Because I think Patrick sat up and sort of let that happen, but they came back together again as we sort of hit lap 2. So it's going to be. I think that these guys are playing the long game here. Nobody's going to try too hard to get away too early when there's so much to play for. It is a relatively short distance, but we're still very early into it. I think we're about 2.7 kilometers. So I think we just said it was about 17k total. There's plenty of time to play games, and I think that we'll see that in the last couple of laps, maybe from lap 6, 7 onwards. So I know Gordon was just sort of saying that he thought this was going to be quite an interesting battle. Who do you think of your two men, Gordon, it favours this sort of course?
This sort of course, it's not too hilly. Maybe Ernst, he's a good GT rider, can put out the power for a long time, but then again, the sprints up the hills might suit Robert more than that. As it was earlier, they have all grouped back up together, so there's quite a large group, maybe 10 or 15 just rolling around together. Group in front's maybe 20 odd seconds ahead, so I suspect this group will hold together for quite a wee while now, unless there's any attacks on the hill. Just having a quick look, but nothing really going on. They're putting up the pace a wee bit, but I don't see anyone actually trying to get away. So it could be an interesting one. Both Robert and Ernst are very similar in power. I suspect Ernst might not leave it for a sprint finish. He might try and hit a wee bit earlier on, but time will tell with a big group like this. It's so hard to get away.
I know what Ernst can do to people that are riding with him. He likes to break them slowly several times. But enough of that. The field tonight appears to have been absolutely blown to smithereens. So the group I'm watching at the moment, so we've got Ben, we've got Maureen, we've got Daniel, and then the group in front with Dennis Wade, Bruce Borthoff, and friend Scott Henry's in there as well. They're all like 18 seconds up the road already, and there are gaps all over the absolute shop. I was expecting larger groupings tonight, but we do have a relatively small field of 56. But yeah, the groups are relatively small, and there are massive gaps all over the place. Jake, what's going on up front?
So unfortunately for Gary Miller, he did really well there, but he got dropped when there was a surge. He was the first rider from that sort of split group to get dropped. So the pace is very, very high. I think he got dropped there and he was doing, just a smidge under 4. So brutal. If you drop out the draft in this, we've seen it before. It's just very, very difficult to get back on, let alone sustain that power if you're already on the brink and your heart rate's high. So good job from Gary, like I said beforehand, to even make that break. And now we are down to literally the heavyweights, the people we expected to see at the front, the people with the strongest legs and the biggest sets of lungs. And we've got people like Chris Shelton and Michael Considine rolling turns on the front. So I wouldn't want to be in that group personally, trying to cling on for dear life. I can see that Chris is messaging the group saying, good job, boys. So I think they are cohesively working as a unit for now. Although, as I've said that, word for word, as I've said that, we've seen attacks off the front. It looks like Patrick Schaefer from Race 3R has gone and Chris Shelton sat up a little bit and kind of let it go. However, Michael Considine is very, very quick to close the gap there, and it all comes back together. Max Szymanski looks like he's the victim there, along with Toby Zuri from Pedal Air. They all got dropped by about 25, 30 metres there. I don't think it was necessarily the intention to drop those specific riders. Hard to say. It might have been. These are the guys that are all potentially working together. So I think they're trying to thin this field and have only people that are strong enough to work with them.
I think also the Race 3R duo, if it was anyone else other than Michael Considine, I would expect that tactic to work, but he's very, very astute and he's more than happy to just plough down the power for short periods of time. Michael's a phenomenally strong rider, so I think that they're going to be very evenly paced, but I don't think the normal sort of teammate tricks are gonna work particularly well tonight. But
on that basis, I'm gonna interrupt you there and say that I have an inside scoop from last weekend's HBR race, the midday UK Saturday race, where Michael Considine and Chris Shelton, I can confirm, worked together to drop Larice from their group when they determined that Larice was not pulling weight. They even sort of dropped a little bit to let him pull through, and he didn't. So they decided that was enough of that, and they messaged each other, and off they went together and dropped him and worked together for the rest of the ride. They, I believe, are on Discord right now. I think it's Chris, Max Szymanski, potentially Kevin. So we could have some interplay here that potentially we've not seen before. I completely agree with you. I think Michael Considine is one of the most astute riders that I've seen. He's very cerebral. He understands tactics very, very well. It's almost as impressive as his power. He really does know when to attack and when to sit up. Potentially here, he is on the front. It looks like he is taking turns and he's doing reasonable power with this group of, I think it's 6 or 7. I think it's 7 riders. So I think potentially we could see them kind of with an alliance until the end, which is what happened last time when they sort of went mano a mano and fought it out. But there were only 2 of them then, and this time there's a bigger group. So could that even work? Not really too sure if that's something that's feasible here. So we'll see a little bit later on. Gordon,
sorry, just to jump in again. I'm personally, I'm expecting probably a 3 or 4 way sprint at the end, but Chris Shelton generally doesn't have the let's call it an elite sprint, but he is generally the most combative rider in this field. But I would not be surprised at all if Chris went early, say maybe 500 plus meters, leaving the others to go sort of hammer and tongs in the last 150. I know Chris has tried in previous races to go a little bit earlier, especially we had a Seaside Sprint a few weeks ago. I think Chris tried going on at the end of the S's when there's still about probably best part of a kilometre to go. Does he go on the last climb? I guess we'll wait and see. Just to recap quickly on what's going on back here, we've still got Dan Bennett. Dennis Wade's joined the party with Marine and Ben as well. They're now a nice group of 4. Dennis was in the group in front, but I don't think he was quite able to hang on, and it was definitely a pretty sort of rampant pace. These guys are still hanging, probably best part of a 2:8.32, anywhere from sort of like 2:8 to 3:2. Pretty tough pace. For position 16 through to 19. But yeah, nice group of 4. Gordon, what's going on in the Ernst Rob battle?
Yeah, well, the Ernst Rob battle's kind of moved on a bit. Ernst got a wee bit distance on maybe the hill before last, so there's actually a gap pulled out of about 20 odd seconds now. Ernst seems to be in a group with a couple of other riders, but there has been 6 or 7 ahead in Robert's group, and the gap is widening. So I think this is going to be a tough one to get back. It's 1 or 2 fall out of Robert's group and slowly get sucked up, but it doesn't look like Ernst's group at the moment is going to pull back that distance. So he's got 2 riders with them, but they're working fairly well together. But I think Ernst is doing a lot of the work. I'm not sure if there's any incentive to catch that group in front. They are. Even now, it's over 30 seconds as we hit the rollers, so I think that might be the last we see of them. It's going to be a hard shift to try and get back on. But we'll wait and see. As I said, indicated earlier, when riders come round lapping, maybe Ernst can jump on a B or an A rider coming past and catch up some of that time. Only time will tell. We'll see. But yeah, what's going on at the front? Sounds where all the action is.
Yeah, we're getting to the point here where we're sort of getting this group of peloton rolling around and sort of lapping these strung out riders further back in the field, which is a bit carnage-like. It's difficult to sort of keep track of who's where, but I think from when I've raced this course before on an earlier HBR, that can actually play into your favour or your disadvantage. It depends how you kind of play it. It's very easy for people to get away if they're clever about it. If you sort of wait until there's a dropped rider or a couple of dropped riders ahead, and then you sort of go then when you're past it, it's very difficult for the peloton to tell that you've gone until you've opened up a gap of maybe 10-15 meters. So the astute riders like Michael Considine might be able to take advantage of that as we get sort of later on in and we see further gaps. As I said we've seen Chris Shelton and Suto make a breakaway, and they've managed to get a gap here of about 3 or 4 seconds over the rest of the peloton. So looks like obviously P. Schaefer, Patrick sat up and let that sort of happen. Michael's the one on the front here drilling it, realizes the desperation needed here. If these people with him aren't going to help close that gap, he's going to have to do it himself. So he's sat here on the front doing big watts. Kevin's helping him now as they realize that Chris might be strong enough with Suto to helping him to stay away as we approach the 10-kilometer mark with just 7k to go. So that gap there is looking reasonable. It's staying stable at about 4 seconds. You've got Patrick, Toby Zur from Pedalair, Max Szymanski, Michael Considine and Kevin Frood as a group of 5 chasing that front group of 2 of Suto and Chris. So that's a real strong pedigree. If you had a group of 5 people you had to pick to help you close that gap, well, those 5 are pretty strong riders, and I wouldn't count them out just yet. But Chris and Suto have opened that gap up even more to 5 seconds here. So we've got just under 7k to go, a couple of laps. I have a feeling that this isn't said and done yet, and we may well see more fireworks. So, James, how are things looking back there with you?
Yeah, no, we've still got the same group. We've got a nice group of 4 here. Ben, Daniel, Dennis, and Maureen. And gaps in front are fairly extreme. I think Scott Henry's about 55 seconds in front. Behind, it's quite hard to tell because of all the lappings going on. But I definitely saw Stéphane Poirier was about 20 seconds back, and he's fresh off the back of pretty much a monster ride in the team time trial last night. I think he averaged about 320 watts for 58 minutes. So I would not be surprised if his legs are feeling a little bit tired today. But I mean, obviously, the likes of Chris Shelton and co were also doing the team time trial. But we are back here just coming up to the 10k mark. So I reckon we've probably got about 7 to go, well over halfway. Gordon, what's going on behind?
Yeah,
I can see Rob Homer is only about 10 seconds off this group.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the Rob Homer group looks like it's maybe now 40 plus seconds ahead, so that gap seems to be expanding. I didn't actually realise one of the 3 riders here is our man on the course, Ed Finney, by the looks of it. So we've got Ernst, Ed Finney, and one other rider, El Conquistor, which they all look sort of fairly similar in power, but I mean, there's not much going on and happening in terms of catching that group ahead. I think they're going to be gone now. Just as we see, it looks like the front of the A is coming up behind 19-20 seconds. We can see Chris Shelton and P. Schaefer coming up. So whether they can get any draft from them to pull back this gap, I'm not sure. Or if they'll just fly by. But at the moment, it's all 3 of them together. So we'll see how they're going. I don't know if we can touch base with Ed, our man on the course, see how he thinks the race is going here with Ernst.
It's okay. Hanging here with Ernst.
Is there any plans to try and catch up, or are you just happy?
It's 45 seconds. I think we're just going to do our thing here. Kind of rotate out.
Yeah, excellent stuff. That sounds like the best idea. Yeah. That gap does appear to be growing, so I think it'd be quite a challenge to catch that. But you never know if you can catch a wheel of a fast A or B rider. We'll see.
Maybe. Let's see.
Just going to jump back in quickly. The Homer, Poirier, etc. group, which looks like there's probably about 6 or 7 riders in it. They're now only 5 seconds behind the group of 4 that I've been keeping an eye on. So I think we could have a big cluster before the end. So expect it to get a little bit crazy. Jake, what's going on up front?
Well, I said there'd be fireworks, and shortly after I handed over the word, Patrick Schaefer, Chris's teammate, launched an attack off the front and bridged across to that group of 2. I think he was doing it so that he can either give Chris some assistance or not be of assistance to the group that's left. So Michael Considine, Kevin, Max, they were all left there as a group. Michael Considine attacks there off the front. He's doing big watts there, orange numbers. does them briefly, distances. He's got a gap of about 20 metres now from that other peloton. I get the impression that there's games going on here that we're not really party to. So he's closed that gap to 4 seconds now to that other group who are rolling turns, doing big numbers. The group behind just wasn't doing anything. I think Michael's potentially decided to do that because he was getting no assistance from the group, and the numbers just weren't very high. I was keeping a look on what the person at the front of that group was doing, and it never really got above 3.8 or 4.0, which for people of that caliber is not particularly high when you're trying to chase a group of 3 riders who are 6 seconds ahead of you. Michael's sort of in no man's land now. He's doing 5.4. He's 8 seconds ahead of Kevin's group, Max and Toby, who didn't respond. They weren't able to respond, I don't think. And he's only got a 2-second gap now. So he's actually just about to bridge across. Michael's going to do this here. He's going to get on the back of this group. So you've got those 4 riders are the 4 left. I get the impression that was an orchestrated move and that they've done this to sort of weed out those other 4 riders. And unfortunately for Kevin and Max, that they were on the receiving end of that. Michael just sort of plows straight through and onto the front of this group of 4 and starts pulling a turn, which is
what an
rather
effort from Michael.
Yeah, fantastic stuff to watch there. So really big effort. I think that what they decided there was probably, and I'm sure I'll hear from Chris after the race, who'd be able to confirm either way. But what it looks like is that Chris went initially with Osuto. When they then realised that the group behind probably wasn't able to catch or wasn't going to work together to catch, Patrick bridged across, and then Michael did the same thing, and I think that was by design. I think that they just decided to just sprint off the front. There was no element of nobody. Patrick didn't work on the front of that group when he was behind, and neither did Michael. Neither of those two put down any sustained watts in an effort to catch the group ahead, other than doing a massive sprint effort of orange numbers, which tells me that they didn't want to take anybody with them when they bridged across, rather than trying to work with them and get to that front group. So yeah, Patrick's looking like he might be the most hurting from his catch. He did big numbers, and he's been sort of sat on the back of that group recovering at about 3.0, 3.6, just sort of sticking in there. Doesn't look like they're really taking too many turns. Chris has done a couple, and Osuto have done a couple, but it doesn't look like there's any rhyme or reason at the minute. As I say this, Patrick's attacking, Chris is going with him, Michael's trying to do the same thing, so these 3 guys are doing orange numbers. Osuto realises, but it might be too late for him. He's 6 seconds off the back. Oh, this is going to be tight. Can he get back on? No, these 3 riders, I think that they did that together, although Patrick's and Chris are probably still about just under 10 metres ahead of Michael, who's still going to have to push. He's doing 5 watts per kilo here, but Chris and Patrick are doing 6.6. They're not going to make it easy for Michael, I don't think. Otherwise, they'd have let up slightly. That gap to Osuto now disappears. He disappears from the map. He's about 20 seconds back. That just tells you how powerful that attack from those 3 riders was as they sit up there, and it's just 3 of them left. So yeah, I think they wanted to get rid of Osuto, and they're gonna do this and see who is the strongest as we approach the last, what I believe is last 1.6 kilometres. So I'll hand you back over to Gordon for an update on the Lecky-Homer war of attrition.
Yeah. Well, I think the Lecky-Homer War's long gone now. Ernst is quite a bit back from Robert. As I thought might happen there, we saw the Max Szymanski, Kevin Flood group come past, which both Ernst and Ed Finney jumped onto the back for a wee bit. Ernst got dropped a wee bit before Ed, so now they're a bit on no man's land. Ernst is on his own with Ed about 10-11 seconds ahead, and the Kevin Flood group's pulled away ahead. They seem to be sprinting up ahead. I'm not quite sure what for. But at the moment, Ernst is on his own at the moment, just TTing round, so it'll be interesting to see how he gets on.
Gordon, I'm going to butt in there.
Yep.
We've actually just seen the end of that race. It was at about 15.6 kilometres, so I think we overestimated the distance slightly. What we just saw was a sprint finish with those 3 riders going as hard as they could, neck and neck until the very line. As a sprinter, it doesn't get much closer than that. It was very, very close. The order I made that, and I think we're going to need a photo finish or a replay. Maybe somebody in the chat's able to confirm this, but I saw that as being Patrick Schaefer took first, followed by Michael Constantine, Chris Shelton in third. But it was very, very close. Exciting finish there. Didn't realise it was quite that close to the end, so apologies for handing you over literally about 200 metres from the end of it. But great effort, very, very exciting. That's one of the most crazy races we've had so far in the last few weeks, and pleasure to watch it.
Meanwhile, we are apparently down to the last kilometre, and our group of 4 has now turned into a group of about 10 or so. We've got Paul Shuckerton in here. We've got N. Gawley. We've got Maureen. We've got Ben. We've got The Echo, who I don't recognise. We've got Dennis Wade. And we've got Kyle No Guts as well, who we've seen a few times. Daniel Bennett's here. We are now down to like the last 700 meters, and this is clustering quite nicely. So 15k gone, 600 meters to go, and it's building up beautifully. We've just got we've got the lumpy section to go through, and then we're just finishing the bumps, and now we're doing the little straight before we have a hairpin down to the main straight. So we're now down to about the last 300 meters. Maureen's in a good spot. Ben's in a brilliant spot. He's second wheel in this group, and he's gone early. Ben's throwing down 800 watts, 850. He's got this by a country absolute mile. Well done, Ben. Throwing it all down all the way to the end, and easy. 15th place for Ben. Great job. Gordon, I think we should probably hand over to you.
Yeah, I'm just saying terrific job for Ben there. He messaged me earlier just asking how the sprints compared to the others in his group, and it certainly looked like he had one of the stronger sprints in that group, so that's exactly what we saw there, yeah. Back onto Ernst, he's just approaching the rollers at the moment. He's completely alone, 15 seconds ahead and 19 seconds behind, so doesn't look like we're going to get a sprint finish from Ernst here. He's just going to cruise home where he is. Certainly beaten by Robert tonight. And it looks like Ed is probably just about finished, just up the road ahead of him. So I'm just trying to check the overall power for Ernst, but it looks like it'll probably be a half-decent finish in Cat C, but not anyone really to race with at this point. I think the 2 key points was getting dropped from the early Robert Homer group, and then as the fast A's and B riders came through, he lost some ground on Ed. So that's probably the 2 points in the race where we lost time on other riders. So at the moment,
let's just switch over to
just finishing.
There we go. Ed's done.
Done.
Well done, Ed.
Well, not really, but I finished.
So,
I was fighting Ernst off.
Yeah, it looks like you managed to pull away from Ernst when the A and B riders came through, so that managed to gap him slightly. There was enough to get away from him.
Yeah.
Looks like
jumped on with Max, and then
looks like Ernst is just done as well.
And we're finished. Yep.
And so all of our riders have come to a gradual stop, and I think we're all just cooling down quite gently. Thank you to everyone for watching, and a big thank you for the pictures that Damien's been supplying us tonight. Thanks to my co-commentary team of Gordon Sloan and Jake Sanderson. Thank you to our riders, Michael Considine, Ben Knopfling, Ernst Leckies, and our man on the course, Ed Finney. So with that, I will say thank you very much. We have 4 rides left in our final race weekend, and then it will be the Herd Summer Racing League from next weekend onwards. So thank you very much, and good night, and we'll see you soon.